Your alternative talk radio contact. The Planet. KGRAradio.com.
With infinite complacence, people went to and fro of the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
Well, Anne, anywhere you want to start? I know you said that it started when you were 4 years old. How did it start for you?
For me, so we live in a really old house. It's like a farmhouse. And we had a lot of activity and stuff, but I was just a little kid. I just wasn't in school yet. And we used to sleep in the family room some nights in the winter because it would be really cool, really cold.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell asleep with my dad, and we were by the fireplace, and I woke up, and the firewood was moving by itself. I was really super little, so I didn't really understand what that meant. So I just snuggled up next to my dad, and I went back to sleep. And I know that we all had different experiences, like growing up, and a lot of times there would be this little girl that would come up, and she would want to play with me, and I would be sleeping, but I would wake up standing in the room that she wanted to play with. Like, I would get in trouble for being up. My mom would get mad at me, but I would wake up exactly where she wanted to play with me, and I was like, I don't know if this is real or not. And at night, we would have this kind of mother figure, and she would walk to each of our rooms at night, and she would check on us. I didn't know a lot of things that happened in the house until we got to be adult. We all started sharing our experiences, but this one we all shared growing up would be this. We felt like it was a mother, and she would come to us, each one of us, at night in our rooms. And my one brother would say, hey, she's going into your room, and it just kind of was, we were used to that, she would come to us. And I know my sister was sick, and she came and she sat on the bed, and she would check on my sister. And my dad redid our house. He tore it apart, and you could see her like going through the hallway and into this closet that used to be a hallway. And sometimes she would just be in the rocking chair, and my brother said he would just put his blanket over his head, like, okay, I'm just going to go to sleep because this thing is doing this. But we had a lot of that growing up. We had, my parents got in a fight, and we had a whole family over, like extended family and everything, and my parents were fighting, and I know some dishes, they went out to the middle of the kitchen and just smashed into the floor. Like, we couldn't explain that. We had that kind of stuff growing up, but when I was in high school, I had something that would mess with me when I was sleeping, and I thought, okay, so it would start at my feet. It would just touch my feet, then it would touch where my knees were, and then where your hips are, and then it would just get to the point where it would pull the covers off. And I thought, okay, I just would get up out of bed because I didn't know what was going on, and it scared me a little bit.
Now, and did your parents see this woman that would go room to room to check on you guys?
My mom did.
Okay.
My dad was one of those, you guys are all full of crap, and he's one of those kind of people.
Even when your mom would say that she would see it, he was like,
well,
no.
Even when he saw the dishes go to the center of the room and then just drop, he just said, well, they just kind of like it must have been something on the stove. Like they just kind of vibrated off the stove, and he just kind of tried to explain away everything.
Those dishes, though, was it something to where they would have had to have lifted up off of something, come horizontally over to where they were going to drop into the middle of the floor?
Yeah, like someone would have had to have carried them.
Wow,
yeah. It was from the stove to the middle of the floor was quite a distance. And my mom even said, hey, these are Corral dishes. Like, they don't just break and smash. They were like thrown down. They weren't dropped. Right. It was with like a force, And there was 14 people in our house, and we all saw it. Can't explain it,
Did that clear the house out, or did everybody just kind of go, okay, well, that was weird, let's get back to the evening?
Yeah, everyone just kind of just let it go, I guess,
That seems to be kind of be the go-to reaction, I think, for most people. You're like, okay, don't know how to classify that, let's just move on.
Yeah, everyone kind of did. But my experiences that I've had going into like adulthood, they really started happening when like I had my kids. And like, you have a new baby, you're like up in the night and stuff like that. And what happened was I was awake with the baby, and I don't know why. I can't explain why I did it, but like I was looking outside, like I opened the curtains in the shade, and there was this light, and it was across the street, and I kept looking at it, and it was like not a perfect circle. It was misshapen, and I kept looking at it, and I'm like, is it the moon? No, because the moon was in the opposite direction. And I kept looking at it, and it was there for a long time. I couldn't explain it. And so, like, I put my newborn to bed, and I laid down, and then I felt something lay on top of me, and was heavy, really heavy. And when you lay down, it's like not all at one time, it's from foot to head type thing. So I just remember feeling this weight lay on top of me, and it when it got to the pillow, I could hear it brush against my ear. So that really upset me pretty bad, because I thought, well, what's laying on top of me? And nothing else happened, but that was really upsetting for me.
How long did you feel that weight on top of you?
Just enough to know that whatever it was laying on top of me.
Like it wanted you to know, hey, if I want to, I'm going to do this, and you can't do anything about it.
Yes, I had no control. It was like it was getting in bed, but instead of getting in bed like you or I would get in bed, it was getting in bed on top of me.
Yeah.
And that brush against my ears when it laid on the pillow, I can't explain it, but that's the best I can explain to you.
So just something about being able to hear it just really cemented in that it was real to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was pretty upsetting. So a few nights later, I put my kids to bed, and whatever this thing was, it got on top of me and was really inappropriate. That's the first time I had anything like this happen to me. When I got up the next morning, I thought, did this really happen? I was really upset by it. I called my sister-in-law and I told her about it, and she said, "Oh, you're just tired. You know, it was nothing, but it felt pretty real to me."
And I'm not going to press you for any details. You know, everybody can draw from what they want from inappropriate. It doesn't take much imagination, really. So I'm not going to press you on that. But do you, when this is going on, are you in some kind of a paralysis state, or are you, too frightened to move, or kind of what are you able to do, or what are you not able to do in that situation, and how long did that go on for?
So it felt like I couldn't control it. Yeah, I couldn't move for myself. It's like you want to move and you can't. It went on long enough for, I guess, for everything to happen that it was inappropriate, and it was from start to finish, I guess. I don't know how to say how long it was, but It was long enough for everything to occur that it wanted
that
to
it
happen.
wanted to. Yeah. So, I mean, the word that I guess we should probably throw out there, and it was one that came up in the email, is the word incubus. And of course, if you look up the word incubus, it is a demon in a male form that, for the most part, will come to women while they are sleeping, right? But it can manifest in certain ways physically, as far as, like you said, you could feel it, you can hear it if it's rubbing up against a pillow, and obviously you could sense what it was doing to you that was inappropriate that night. And something that John Paul mentioned to me right before we hopped on was that I believe he said, if you wake up like fast enough, while it's going on, and you force yourself to kind of see, like open your eyes, and you can actually see what this thing really looks like.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen this thing?
Yeah. Not totally, but yeah. So I thought that it was, when it first laid down on me, I thought, well, maybe I should back it up. Our first house that I lived in when I got married was a piece of my parents' house. Remember, I told you that their house was very active?
Yeah.
And right away, the first night in my house, I had activity. And what happened a lot of the times was, when the people had a plantation or a farm, they would take a piece of the house and actually move it, and then sell the main house so that they could, it was kind of like their retirement plan in the 1800s. So I had a piece of my parents' house. We bought the house next to them. And so I used to think, well, this is the same thing that we grew up with. My first night there, there's a sliding glass door, and that opened. It's a very distinct sound. It's loud. And I went and looked, and there was nobody there. So I thought, okay, that's what's going on. But like growing up, I never had anything like lay on me or try to do any of that. So, I used to think, well, this might be something in their house, but it didn't seem to matter where I was at. It's like wherever I am, it just was there in my adult life. Like, I moved to an apartment. I was taking a shower, and I thought, this really hurts, and I looked at my leg, and it was bruised, and it was like the back of my calf, almost behind where your knee is. And I thought, this looks like a bite. The shape of it looked like a bite. So I had my pastor come over, and he's a retired nurse. And I said, what does this look like to you? And he said, That looks like a bite. And I could never bite myself there. I couldn't reach.
Not unless you were in Cirque du Soleil or something, right? I mean, there's very few people that can reach back there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, when I was having these dreams where it was at the end of my bed and it was trying to get to me, like it just wanted to, it was at the foot of my bed and it was trying to crawl in bed with me. And so, he prayed and I thought, okay, this is good. Like he's prayed and this is good. It's probably just this place. It's this apartment. Like there's something wrong with this apartment. So, a couple of years later, I bought a house, and when I moved into the house, I stayed the first couple nights by myself before the kids came because we didn't have internet. You know how people are without internet and everything.
Yeah.
So I stayed here, and I was sleeping, and something came running in my room, and I have a wooden bed, so it banged on the side of my bed, rapping on it, like, wake up, that kind of thing. And it got on the bed and it straddled me. Kind of like when you're laying down, you feel somebody like at your waist level. It just got on top of me, just kind of like to hold me down. And I thought, here we go. It doesn't really matter where I'm at. So it would do things like that to let me know, hey, still here.
Still here. So, and what about, so in that instance though, it doesn't go all the way through and do this inappropriate thing, it just gets on top of you and straddles you, like you said, so it's just to let you know, hey, I'm still here. You're not going to get rid of me by moving.
Right. And a few months later, about 3 months later, I was getting ready for work and I was drying my hair and I lifted my arm up and on your tricep region, there was a bite mark and it hurt. And I couldn't bite myself in the way that it was the direction of the bite marks. Like it was there. And that told me that's the first thing I thought, hey, it doesn't matter where you're at, I'm still here. And so I was pretty upset with that because I thought, I had prayers and things like that and it just didn't matter, where I was at. And then one night after work, I came home and I fell asleep on the couch and I heard it walk through my kitchen into the living room, and it just put its hand underneath my head and just lifted my head up and just dropped it. Not nice, And of course, I'm like, what is this? What's going on? Just not very nice.
Do you ever in those situations where you're kind of just, it's not always you in bed, but you're just doing something normal, like just in the kitchen. Do you ever say anything out loud to it or try to speak to it, or do you think that would get it kind of riled up somehow?
That's the thing. I had never really said anything. I was more surprised, I guess, just shocked. I hadn't said anything. But another time I woke up and it was being inappropriate with me. It's like when I'm fully consciously aware, then it goes away. Do you know what I mean? When I'm awake enough to say, hey, stop, it's done. But not too long ago, I was sleeping. Well, I should back up, several times throughout this whole time, it has come to me and it will flip me over. I can feel it. It flips me over when I'm asleep, or not quite asleep, but I think I'm sleeping, but I can hear everything. You ever have that where you can hear things, but you're not quite completely asleep?
Yeah.
And so it would take and flip me over. And the best I can tell you is I can always hear it, like it's wanting to lay on me, and I can hear it in my ear, like it brushes against my ear, like it's that close kind of thing. So this is strange, but the last time it happened to me, it got in bed with me and it crawled up right next to me on the pillow, and I could feel it. I could feel, like, whenever it does this, I can feel the bed moving. I can hear everything. And it was, the best way I can explain it is I could hear its wings, like, on my ear. I could feel it on my face, on my ear.
Its wings?
Wings, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
That's the first time I'd ever had that, but I could feel it.
So what gave you, how did you know it was wings? Did you kind of see them, or you
I
just...
could hear them. I could see them, and I could feel them, like, on my cheeks.
Oh, man. Okay, so earlier, when I mentioned what John Paul had said about, if you catch them before you're fully awake, and like you said, like kind of in that in-between, you can kind of see them. What have you seen of this thing?
It's black. It's like black feathers. The best way I can, and it was like flapping its wings, and then it was best thing I could explain is it's like crouched on the pillow next to me, and it was flapping its wings, and I could feel them and hear them on my face.
How big is this thing?
It's weird because, like, every time it's inappropriate with me, I always assumed, like, this must be the thing. And even when it lays on me, it feels like it's, the size of a person.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't figure out, like, how could it crouch on the pillow next to me?
Right.
Like, it was, crouched down, and I could feel its wings on my face.
That's just horrifying. I'm so sorry.
It is, really. That's why I have really never explained this to anyone, because I don't know how you really bring something like this up to anyone.
Right. My goodness. How often does this happen to you? Is this a weekly thing?
To me, it comes and goes. It's more like it'll do it for a week at a time. And I feel like it wears me down to where I'm just so exhausted. Like, It's hard for me to get up in the morning. I feel like I have this weight on my back. It just happens sporadically, but when it does, it seems like it wears me down. Almost like it feels like it wants me to be at a vulnerable state where I'm just so exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be anything special going on in my life. It just occurs.
Is there any truth to, the witching hour, or once the winter hits, the veil gets thinner, or is it just for you? I mean, it doesn't matter what time of year, or is it all the same?
It doesn't matter what time of year. I will notice that, like, I've had it call out to me. I woke up with it saying my name, but it really doesn't matter. I do know a lot of times I'll wake up like 3:18. A lot of the times, forever, it seemed like I was just waking up at 3:18. It doesn't really correlate with anything in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But
what does its voice sound like?
That's the thing. It can be anybody. It can sound like my mother.
Oh gosh.
It can sound like someone nobody that I've ever met before, but I've had it sound like my mom, and it will just call out my name. Yeah, it's kind of disturbing.
That's a lot disturbing. It's quite the court jester. It just thinks it's really funny. It's having a good time, isn't it?
It is. When I think that it's not going to come around again, it will. I don't really like to talk about it too much because I feel like if I speak it out, then it makes it real.
Right.
I don't want to give it too much attention.
Right.
So I don't really talk about it too much.
Well, that's why I thank you for doing this. And I mean it, and John Paul means it too. If you want to talk to him, it can be, you know, in any situation with me on board or just the two of you, but he would be happy to help because I'm giving you the platform to share, and I know a little bit about this, but he knows a lot more about this stuff. So, and in fact, I might share with him our conversation before it even goes up for air, just because, I mean, this stuff is just, I don't know how you ever sleep, and I really don't. That it's just.
Yeah, sometimes I think I'm going crazy, but I think that too, but a lot of stuff, like when you watch movies and Hollywood and all that, it's so sensationalized, but I think in your lot in life, you just kind of deal with what you're given.
Right.
And like.
Just strange what you get used to, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I used to think, oh my gosh, this would be like the worst thing in the world, and then I'm like, well, this is kind of like, this is me, like, this is what's going on. Like I say, it's not to be sensationalized. I don't want people to think that, like, it's not, you know, like they have on movies and everything, they have some pretty extreme things, but when you live it and it's your everyday life, I mean, you just you have to deal with it, you know?
Something else that you brought up in your email is that there was a psychic woman, and she wouldn't let you into her home. And why was that?
So I wanted some help. And a friend of mine said, my mom's a psychic. She can do a reading, like we can go to her house. So I went to her house and I got as far as her doorstep, and she wouldn't even come to the door. He went in the house and he's like, you know, I have a friend here, and she's like, I know, and he said she just wants to see like if you can help her, and she said she needs to go now. She needs to leave now. She has this black thing that's attached to her. I can see it on her shoulders, and she needs to leave. And I had to leave. She's like, she was almost hysterical. And I thought, well, this lady's crazy, you know. I mean, I didn't know what she meant by it, but yeah, I couldn't get any help from her. So,
I mean, but that must be so frustrating. You went there for help from her, and she says, no, I'm not. There's too much here going on. I'm not even going to deal with you.
Yeah, she did. She said she cannot come in my house.
Jeez. That was one of her things, right? I mean.
Yeah, it is. So I just figured, like, I don't know. I never really tried to get help. I went to a counselor about it, and she said, you know, what you're telling me, it sounds like you have schizophrenia. And I said, well...
That's a heck of a jump to say to somebody. You can't just throw that word around. Hey, you're a schizophrenic. Sorry to tell you. What?
The thing is, I know this sounds insane. Like, I don't think it sounds normal. This is crazy. You know, for lack of a better word. I don't want to say crazy, but it does not sound right. But she said that she gave me a couple ideas. She said that, but then she did say, she's like, well, she had talked to me enough times, like she had known me long enough before I would even come out and tell her this. Because I've had other things happen, and I had explained it to her, because ever since I've been a little kid, I've been able to see things before they happen, or, you know, I just kind of know things. But she said, you know, I know you, and she said, it does sound like schizophrenia, but she said, I do know you. And she just said a couple things. She just said, do you think that maybe you have something in your home that you need to get out. And I thought about what she said, but there's nothing, I don't know that anything that I've had with me throughout my entire life that has been with me that would have to go. You know, around the time she said that, my grandfather and my father and my uncles and my dad's family are Masons. And I said, well, my mother gave me my grandmother's Eastern Star. And she said, you need to get that out of your house. And I thought, well, I didn't tell her this, but this stuff had been going on before I had my grandmother's Eastern Star.
Right.
You know, this was not new. But she said...
But what is an Eastern Star? I mean, why would she have said that needs to go? What might be... What would that have to do with anything that might be dark or bring something bad upon you?
So my, great or great-great-grandfather, my dad's family, they're Masons. So, like, my grandmother's married to a Mason, so she's an Eastern Star. And my mother told me, my dad's very hush-hush. I've never heard anything from my father in my entire life about any of it. I didn't even know this until I was an adult, that my dad and his whole family are Masons. And she said my dad's grandfather, they would have meetings, and so it'd be my great-grandmother, because it would be my dad's grandpa, so it would be his wife, and like the wives, you know, they get together and they're like, we want to see what they're doing. Like, they're going to these meetings, and we want to go see what's going on, just out of curiosity. So this is a time where the women wore bonnets.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what time period that would be. But they went to see what was going on, and they were having a meeting, and I guess they had a banjo, and the banjo got up and just played music on its own and just like went all around the room. And it scared my great-grandmother and the other wives that were with her. It scared them so much that they left. They ran across the field, and the whole time they were running across the field, they kept tying their bonnets, and something kept untying them. And they would tie it again, and something would untie it. So, you know, she suggested maybe something they did.
Right. They saw something they shouldn't, and now it's following the entire family throughout the years.
Right. Yeah. But I'm the only one that has this. Like I say, as adults, we kind of talked. I had 2 brothers and a sister, and my brother passed away when I was 12. But my other brother and my sister, as adults, they admitted that they have different things that, gifts, I guess you could call them, that they have. And I didn't know this. I always thought that I was just so different, like I didn't fit in. I never felt like I fit in. But my sister told me, oh yeah, she said, when I meet someone and I shake their hand, I can tell what kind of person they're going to be and if they're going to cross me in life. And I thought, this is so strange because I don't have that gift, you know. And my brother, he told me that his line of work, he does commercial refrigeration, and he was at a bar and they were doing some work, him and this guy he worked with. And he said, this guy had just bought the bar, and he said, this guy's not going to be here next year. And his coworker was like, what do you mean? He's like, he's not going to be around much longer. And he didn't say this in the bar. He waited till they were leaving. Sure enough, like the next year, they went back to the same bar to do work, and the guy had passed away.
Oh my goodness.
And so that's kind of like how he feels about certain things. And for me, my brother had a best friend that was murdered in a convenience store. And he was my brothers and sisters are a lot older than me. They're like 10, 11, and 12 years older. So when I was just little, before school, preschool, I told my mom one day, I said, I really miss Bobby. And she said, what do you mean? I said, I miss Bobby. And right after that, he was murdered in this convenience store. And just ever since I was little, I just was able to do that. My parents were having an argument one day about some people at church, and I walked in the room and I said, what are you guys talking about? And they're like, nothing. I said, you guys are talking about Jerry and Juanita. And I said, and they're going to get a divorce. And I just left the room.
Just very matter of fact.
Yeah, and that was what happened. So,
I mean, so when you guys were kids, though, you had the lady that would come check on you, right? And you all saw her, and it was just a fact that happened. Have you not shared to the extent of what you're going through with your siblings at all?
No. For me, it feels embarrassing. I don't know. You just don't know if people are going to understand what you're saying to them. No, I've been afraid to say anything. I haven't said anything to anyone about it until I talked to my counselor.
Yeah, and that went so well because then you said they were a schizophrenic. I mean, it just,
right.
it's just people just anyway, unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, so far it sounds like you and your siblings. I'm so sorry about your brother. I lost a brother too. I know that it's horrible. You guys, so far, it sounds like you've gone through the same things, the premonitions, and you saw the lady, and I'm just wondering, and I'm not trying to say, hey, you should go talk to them tomorrow. Nothing like that. I'm just wondering, since you're going through this and you guys had so many the same experiences, if either of those guys or your sister, your brother are going through anything like this at all.
No, actually, my son goes through the same type of thing.
Yeah, I know. That was one of the last things I had to get to, and I know it's probably going to be the worst to talk about. When did that start for him? At what age?
About 14.
And how old is he now?
He's 20. The first time he had an experience, he had like an anxiety attack. Mm-hmm. And he got up in the middle of the night and he was having an anxiety attack, and I'm thinking, this is the middle of the night, what's going on? And he didn't really explain to me too well, but he just said, something's messing with me. And I never said anything to him about what I was going through. So I thought, well, we had went through a divorce, and it's kind of a long story, but he ended up living with me. So I thought maybe he's just having a lot of anxiety about that. So we moved into our new house, and he complained about something that I have had happen. I don't share with him because I don't want to, like I say, I don't want to speak it into existence or give it any kind of validity. But he has had the same thing where something's screaming so loud in your ear, and it doesn't sound human. I don't know how to explain it. It's so loud. And he's had something lay on top of him, and he cannot move. He's been touched inappropriately. And so, finally I came clean because I had a dream that I was trying to get to him, and I couldn't get to him. And we both, the next day we were talking, and he's like, I had a dream that I couldn't get to you, and I was trying to get to you. And so him and I were having the same dream on the same night. It just seemed way too similar to me. But he does complain about being touched inappropriately.
What does it look like to him? Has he seen it?
I haven't asked him exactly what it looks like. It's male, it's not a female. And he's seen its arms, but I haven't asked him exactly what he thinks it looks like.
Do you think that if you were able to see what attacks you every single time, that it would look the same every time?
I think it's the same thing, because the things that he explains to me are the same, similar, that I'm going through.
So even that thing that's tormenting him, you get the sense that it's got wings and these other things that you've brought up?
I don't know. I haven't asked him that, but the way that he explains things to me, that's happening to him, I really didn't make the connection between the two of us until we had the same dream the same night. Like, it's tormenting both of us.
I mean, were you guys somewhere really horrible and dark, and you had this extreme urge to leave? I mean, why was the dream so horrible that you had to, get to each other?
No, I mean, I just felt this urgency, like I needed to get to him, like he was in trouble. I could feel it.
Mm.
And I was trying to get to him. And have you ever had a dream where you just keep walking and walking and you're in the same spot? Like you're just not moving, but you keep walking? And that's how I felt. And in his dream, he felt he was trying to crawl to me. And no matter how hard he tried crawling on the floor down the hall, he just could not get down the hallway to my room.
And how many times have you had the vision or the sight of it to where you're like, okay, it's got black feathers and wings? How many times have you seen that?
I've only been able to see it once.
Okay.
He has actually just explained to me he can see its arms, but yeah.
Did he go into any more detail about that?
It's definitely a male, and when it attacks him, it's a male.
Mm.
And the same for me.
Is he having trouble sleeping? Is this affecting his life?
Yes.
I mean, it must be. I mean, but of course it's your kid, so you never want this to, happen to your kids. But you're not the only one. But now it's your son that's having these problems. So
yeah, I've had him to counselors. I've had him to the doctor. Yeah.
And what are they saying?
The counselor says he's just very angry.
Why would he be angry, though? Was there a reason that he says he's so angry?
I think he feels abandoned because he has Asperger's.
Mm-hmm.
And when his father found out he had Asperger's, he just, was done with him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we got a divorce, and, he and I have lived together ever since. And so I've had him in counseling, but he just has such anxiety, and he has physical manifestations of that anxiety. So we've had tests. He's had tests at the hospital, and he's on medication for GI type symptoms because of his anxiety.
Right.
And then he goes to a psychologist, and he's on some medication for his anxiety for that, but he is more vocal and about his problems and his things that he goes through than I am, because I've just always been so afraid to tell him what I go through, because I don't want to scare him either. I don't want him to think oh my God, this is the same thing I'm going through.
And you've never been diagnosed with anything. So, if you're the control subject and you're not diagnosed with anything that you would need medication for, or that would inhibit you in any way, but then he's going through the same thing. So it kind of makes you wonder, of course, well, if they're both going through the same thing, then it does in fact seem that something outside is affecting you guys.
I'm not sure. Like I say, I've gone to a counselor, and she's known me for a while, and she said, if I didn't know you any better, I would think that you were schizophrenic. But she's like, I know you're not, because she's talked to me long enough to hear my rationale. Yeah, and my son, he goes to a psychologist. He's not been diagnosed with anything like that.
Besides the priest that saw the bites, who is also the RN, have you ever had anybody outside come in to bless the house or do a cleansing of any sort?
No, just the pastor.
Or the pastor, right? Not the priest. Sorry.
Yeah.
What's your stance on stuff like that? Having the outside parties come in and do the whole ceremonies and all of that stuff. Are you still open to that?
I'm definitely open to that, because it affects your everyday life, Yeah, I'm definitely open to it, but I want somebody that's able to listen to what we have to say, and without judgment.
Right.
That's hard. That's a big reason why I haven't spoken to too many people about it, because it sounds insane.
What about your daughter? Your son is 20 now. How old is your daughter?
She's 18.
Does she have anything going on?
Yeah, she has a lot of the same dreams as me. Like, when I had the dreams that it's at the end of the bed and it's trying to get up in the bed to be with me, she's had the same dream. She's told me about it. I don't share anything with her, but she has told me that. I have dreams where I hear something so loud that I wake up, and it's so loud, like a bang or something, like you're thinking a tree fell on the house, something, please, it's just so loud. And like last weekend, she told me the same thing. She said, I woke up because it was so loud. She said, I thought a tree fell on the house. So she's had the same kind of dreams as me. She can sense some of the same things, but she doesn't have the same experiences like I do and my son.
I mean, there is something called exploding head syndrome, where you're asleep or almost asleep, and then all of a sudden like you said, it's the exact same thing. It's like something hits the house or something has exploded inside the house, but you guys are all having this together. You've all experienced it.
Yeah, and this is not when I'm almost asleep. This is like I've been to sleep for hours, and like I had something so loud that I woke up and I was terrified. I couldn't go back to sleep. And she had the same exact experience as I did.
How many times does that happen to you?
This loud noise that I had happened, and then just last weekend she had the same exact loud noise.
Oh, this is very recent.
Yeah, this just happened, and we don't have it the same night, but she has the same exact experience. And when she told me about it, I thought, I know the terror that she's feeling, because when you wake up, your heart's like, oh my gosh, it's just racing. Like, it's so loud. I even, when it happened to me, I got up and looked around. I really thought something was going to be wrong in the house.
Right. You thought like a plane's engine had come through the roof, right? Like it's that loud.
It was, yes.
I mean, if it's something in your family's past, it just seems like, how would you even begin to unravel that or fix it, I
don't know if I'm convinced of that. I guess I don't really know where to start. Right. But when she put it to me like that, I wasn't sure. I'm not sure on that.
I just wonder what John Paul would say. It might be very advantageous to get you two talking and just see what comes of it. He's much more adept at this stuff than I am.
I'm open to help, because you know, like I say, I don't know who it's kind of like a helpless feeling because you don't know who you're supposed to go to, who you're supposed to talk to. I've had my house blessed. It really didn't matter. And it kind of feels, I don't know, I just would like that disconnect, and I don't know how to do that.
Right. You want a break.
Especially,
you need a break.
Yeah,
that would be
I do.
Really nice, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
Has there ever been a time where, for whatever reason, you may not even know, but there's been a time where you're like, oh my gosh, maybe it's done?
Yeah, but it seems like just when you were thinking that, it's right back again. And, you know, it's something that you deal with it. I mean, it's not something that I know how to get rid of, but I know that we've dealt with it. We say our prayers. Just have to have faith in that. But yeah, I'm definitely open for any kind of help because it's not just affecting me. It's really affecting my son as well.
And your son and your daughter are both in the house, right?
My daughter stays on the weekends with me, but my son's here all the time.
Okay.
But when she's here, she has dreams. And the dreams, I will not admit to her that I've had the same dream because I'm so afraid that she'll be so scared, you know. I don't want to scare her.
Do you wonder, though, if she's having the same experience of feeling something on top of her? Or, I mean, that's, to think about that with your kids is just, you want to just annihilate something. But do you kind of wonder if she's going through all of the things that you are?
She would tell me.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah. She would definitely tell me.
Well, I'm sorry you're going through all that, Ann.
Thank you.
And everybody, you've heard Ann say, yes, I'm looking for help, please. So email me. I can pass it along to Ann. And Ann, I will get you in touch with John Paul because I really do think that he could be very helpful in this situation.
Yeah, I would really appreciate it. It would be nice to know that I'm not the only person that's going through this. I think that's pretty hard to do everyday life and just wonder if anyone else is going through this.
Well, I know that there are. This is a subject that has not come up a lot on the show, and that's because it takes a lot of bravery to talk about what you did tonight. So, if anybody has help for Ann, or if you're like, hey, you know what? I'm actually going through the same thing. And even if it's not, you don't want to come on the show, that's fine. If you would like to just get in touch with Ann, get in touch with me and I will forward it to her. And then you guys can converse and go, oh my gosh, I'm going through the same thing. And, you can compare notes and maybe help each other out. Or at least, like you said, you know that there's other people out there going through the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard.
I do ask this when people have things going on in their home. And you did kind of already bring it up, so it's kind of a moot point because you've already said it. But are you super duper worried that talking about this is going to make the next few nights or week really bad for you?
I used to think that, but I've found that it really doesn't matter. I used to think it mattered, like where I slept, where I live. If I talk about it, if I don't, it doesn't really seem to matter.
Well, I'm sorry about all that, Ann. And we may be hanging up on the call, but you and I will be in contact. Just know that I'll help out in any way that I can. And you sharing this tonight will definitely get correspondence. I'm on your side. I'm here to help. And just let me know if you need anything. But I'll be in contact with you over the next few days just to check on you and get you and John Paul hooked up. And then, once the show airs, people are going to come forward and want to talk to you. So I will definitely let you know anything that I hear, okay?
Okay.
All right. Well, you guys take care out there.
That means a lot. Thank you.
You're so welcome, Anne. Thanks for being willing to share this.
Well, I'm so-and-so. I was given this name by my parents. I've been to such and such a college. I've done these things in my profession. I produce a little biography. Buddha says, forget it. That's not true. That's some story. That's all gone. That's all past. I want to see the real you are now. Well, nobody knows who that is. Because we don't know ourselves except through listening to our echoes and consulting our memories. But then there's a real you, and that again leads us back to this question. Who are you? That is the real you. We shall see how they play with this exam by the koans to get you to come out of your shell and find out who you really are. same idea in his poem, The Four Quartets, where he says, when you settle down in the train to read your newspaper and so on, you are not the same person who a little while ago left the platform. If you think you are linking your moments up in a chain. And this is what binds you to the wheel of birth and death. But when you know that every moment in which you are is the only moment, this comes into Zen. A master will say to somebody, get up and walk across the room. And he comes back and he says, where are your footprints? They've gone. So where are you? Who are you? When we are asked who we are, we usually give a kind of recitation of a history.